America. Go to news1.com.
Praise the Lord, my brothers and sisters. We are back. Anthony Miles, your Christian Reverse Mortgage Answer Man. We're back for the second half. Run for a full hour Wednesday. Every Wednesday at 10 o'clock, we are here now. We don't skip that first Wednesday of the month. WOL 1450, the number to always call me on 1-800-952-PRAY, 1-800-952-7729. Also look at my Facebook page, the Christian Reverse Mortgage Answer Man. I upload information and videos about topics about the reverse, so definitely stay tuned and pay attention to that because you'll get updates about that. So we were talking about being a doubting Thomas. If you currently have a reverse mortgage and you say you've been satisfied, you didn't know you could sell your house, you didn't know you could refinance your reverse. Maybe you knew you could refinance your reverse, but you said no because you don't want the balance to go up. But here's what you have to understand. By you acknowledging you can refinance your reverse and at least reserving that equity that's available, it keeps it out of the hands of the greedy bank. And we talked about being a doubting Thomas. You don't physically see that money when these people are calling you on the phone saying you got 30 grand coming to you. And you might be one of those people that said, I know I got 30 grand, but I don't want it. I don't need it. I'm not telling you to take it. I'm telling you that if you don't at least reserve it, doubting Thomas, what's going to happen is the bank's going to get it. And you're going to walk into the bank. So here's how this then transpires. If you're the doubting Thomas that didn't ever know you could refinance your reverse and you're too afraid, you don't physically see that 30 grand. Nobody sent you a statement on it because the bank doesn't want you to know. So they can legally hide it without showing you got 30 grand available because you have to go through the process of refinancing for that to be displayed to you. So if you didn't believe it, it's there. You don't see it. We see it because your home's gone up in value. And if you do not at least utilize it by reserving it and being a doubting Thomas saying, hey, I don't see it, so therefore it must not be there. Think about it like when you did a regular mortgage or you did the reverse for the first time. You didn't see the money they were going to give you at closing yet, okay? You had to trust it was going to be there. So the same thing works with refinancing the reverse. It's exactly the same scenario. There's more equity that's available to you. Don't take it if you don't need it. But if you at least reserve it, you keep it out of the hands of the bank. The bank doesn't want you to know it because they want that money. So if you've got 30 grand coming to you and you're like, well, I didn't see it, you need to realize it's like your bank account. And your bank account, what happens is that bank account gets depleted every single month. You've got a Social Security going in there. You got your pension going in there, okay? So when that check is taken out, if you also had another $1,200 come out of that check every single month, you'd say, whoa, what happened? Who took that money? You'd be calling that bank saying, where is my money? That's the same thing. The bank doesn't want you to know, though, that you got that 30 grand. But that's why everybody's calling you on the phone because they know you got that money available to you. But don't take it out in the form of cash. Just at least reserve it. By reserving it, you're acknowledging that you're not a doubting Thomas. You're acknowledging that, yes, Christ has risen from the dead. Hallelujah, I believe it. You're acknowledging that behind that green curtain is the Wizard of Oz. And you can see him because Toto moved that blanket and is pulling on his pants. Okay, it's there. Don't be stubborn. Don't be the doubting Thomas. Look into it. Call the FHA. Ask them if you're allowed to refinance your reverse mortgage. I'm telling it to you, and I'm telling you that, hey, yes, you do have it, and you don't even have to go through me. But I'm telling you to at least reserve it, okay? So if you're one of those people that says, hey, yes, I know I've got more money coming to me. I know it, but I don't want it because I don't want my balance to go up. I'm going to say, hey, hallelujah, I agree with you. I don't want your balance to go up either. 1-800-952-PRAY, 1-800-952-7729. I don't want your balance to go up either. I want that money, though, that's your money, to be at least reserved to keep for your children or to keep for you for a rainy day to stay in what's called the equity reserve line of credit. It's what happens when you at least step up to the plate and say, this is my home. This is my equity. not yours, Mr. Bank. You have your right to some of it because that's the contract we signed up for. But you don't have the right to this extra window of equity that came about. And I don't have to take it in the form of cash that my loan officer I'm working with is telling me that they're going to deposit in my account. I have the right to reserve it and leave it in this line of credit, because if I do that, I don't get charged interest on it. In fact, what happens is the bank then gives me, and it accrues interest in my favor because I at least stepped up to the plate and acknowledged it. If you know you can refinance your reverse and you decide not to, and you say, I don't want my balance to go up, I don't care about any more money, I don't want anything else to do with it, you got to understand this is what you're doing. You're walking into the bank on Christmas morning, and you're Mr. Scrooge, and you're Mr. Scrooge that was not visited by 3 ghosts that changed his mind frame and, more importantly, changed his heart. And you're Mr. Scrooge walking in there with your hard-earned money, and you're going to take your car, you're going to take whatever $30,000 equals to, and you're going to park it right at the doorstep of the bank, and you're going to bang on the window at 7 in the morning with your cane or your walker or your fist, and you're going to say, hey, I'm doing great. I don't need this stuff. This is mine. This is my car. I paid for it. This is my home. I paid for it. This is my wallet that contains $30,000, but I don't need it. You guys need it more than me. You're the bank. You're suffering, right? No. I'm being very sarcastic, but I'm being very realistic, because that's what you're doing. You're being Mr. Scrooge, and you're not acknowledging that it's your equity. And what would Mr. Scrooge do? Do you think he would go to that bank if he didn't have that change of heart? Do you think he would go and drop off $30,000 of his shillings and his whatever those coins were? You think he would go to Bob Cratchit's and drop off that turkey for Tiny Tim? No way, Jose. He'd be a Scrooge, a miser, and he would never give that money to the bank. Okay? But if you're doing so great in these tough times and everything's going so great and you want to be stubborn, you got to at least acknowledge. I'm trying to shock you, okay? I'm not saying this in a mean way, but I'm trying to get you to realize that in actuality, you are walking into the home with that, walking into the bank, which is your home, okay? Because you're basically giving it to them. So you're walking in there with that brand new car and saying, I don't need it. I paid this off, but you guys need it. You guys deserve it better than I do. My home that I put my blood, sweat, and tears into, that my grandfather built, I don't need that equity. You guys need it more than me. My children don't need it. You need it, Mr. Bank, because you're suffering. It's the opposite. This is your equity. This is your equity that you are hand delivering over to the bank. Don't believe me? Call the FHA and double check exactly what I am saying, okay? Double check everything that I am saying on there. So let's move on. You're satisfied. I love the reverse. Great. I didn't know I could sell my home. I didn't know I could refinance. Here's another thing you didn't know, that you can make monthly payments. What? What do you mean I can make payments? I'm in a reverse mortgage. I'm in a reverse mortgage where, by the definition, I am not obligated to make a payment. Yes, not obligated doesn't mean you are forced to not make a payment. It means simply you are in control of the amount of payments that you decide to make in a reverse mortgage, and you are in control of the frequency of those payments, when they are made, how often. So not only the amount, but how often. 99% of the people in a reverse mortgage, or at least 95%, because I think I've got through to the other 4% on there, that was only 1% at one time, know that they can make a payment on the reverse. And that's very important to know, because that loan officer, when they came out to see you, didn't care enough to tell you that. And that's a critical piece of information that you were not told. Why weren't you told this? Well, number one, the bank doesn't want you making a payment. So they're not going to call you and say, hey, by the way, did you know on your reverse mortgage you can make payments? Because if you make a payment, what happens? Your balance goes down, which means less guaranteed money. Remember, the reverse mortgage is a contract between the federal government, the bank, and the homeowner. The federal government says to the bank, let the homeowner utilize their equity in the form of tax-free cash, and then let the homeowner control if they decide to make any payments and how much of a payment they make and the frequency of those payments. Because that was never explained properly to you, and it was just, hey, The reverse mortgage is a way for you to utilize your equity and you don't make a payment except your taxes and insurance. No, you've been done a major disservice. 1-800-952-PRAY, 1-800-952-7729. Call me with more information about that. You've been done a major, major disservice by not knowing that. Because what happens is it becomes a deferred loan where you're not making a payment. And that's okay. But it's not okay if you wanted to leave something to your children, if you wanted to leave them a legacy. It's not okay if you only owed $30,000 and you needed to just get above water. You needed to pay off a couple bills, but then you wanted to get back on track and leave a free and clear home to your family. The option to do so and to treat it the way it was created was taken away from you by your loan officer via the bank. They didn't want you to know, and your loan officer didn't care enough about you to tell you that. Or they just didn't know. When I started doing these reverse mortgages, I'm going to let you know right now, I didn't know that much about them. I got into it because of my mother. We did the reverse mortgage. It was a blessing. It saved our home, but I did not know anything about them. Okay? And I just went on the basis of what my manager said. So the first few years I was doing the reverse, I was not fully educated. And I'm going to tell you something. It's not that I didn't want to know. It's that it takes years of being in this industry to fully understand it from A to Z. A couple of years you can get from A to maybe letter F. But to get from, what is after F? G to Z, I don't even know the alphabet. G to Z, that takes many more years. But it also takes the willingness to be an ethical, responsible person. It takes the willingness to do right by you, the homeowner. And that's where a lot of people stop at F, and that's failure. They failed you. And I didn't just pick F out of the pocket. It came out, but it's true. Because they don't want to go from G to Z, because from G to Z means they have to be ethically responsible for what they're doing, and they have to make that decision and live with it. And I cannot live with a decision knowing that I'm putting somebody in a program that's going to harm them, knowing that I did not properly inform them. From A to F, when those first few years, I feel bad about those because I wish I knew better. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I'm not a hypocrite. I didn't know. Okay, and I wouldn't have known. Nobody was going to come up and tell me because I'm the only person telling people this. So unless I was working for myself who had all that industry knowledge, I would have never been the wiser. But now I know. Okay, and I've been spreading it on the airwaves, and I'm hoping other loan officers are going to step up to the plate and do the same thing, and that means explaining everything to you, the do's and the don'ts, and that's what we do at these seminars at the churches and the senior centers. We tell you the do's and the don'ts so you're properly prepared for a successful retirement, because if you're making a payment, you're going to leave more equity to the family. And if that's what your goal is, if your goal is to give them as much as possible and to leave as much possible, then you better believe you better be making payments. And I'll tell you how you do that. So what a lot of people also don't know is when they make a payment, not only does it lower the balance every single month because it gets treated like a regular mortgage, the bank takes that same payment and credits it to your line of credit. So the payment gets applied to the balance, but that same payment gets applied to your line of credit, which raises and collects interest in your favor. So every payment is basically matched by the bank like a retirement account at your work. They'll match it dollar for dollar. If you make a payment, your balance goes down. They'll match that payment and they'll stick it in this line of credit savings account, which is going to collect interest in your favor, and it's going to grow and it's going to grow and it's going to grow to where 5 years down the road, you're going to have that home paid off and you're going to be free and clear, and you're going to have this huge savings account. And that huge saving account is going to set you up for a successful retirement. So this is stuff people don't want you to know. That's why we do this radio show. That's why you need to tell other people about this, because they don't know they can make payments on a reverse. So if it's your first time thinking about it, I want you to think about the reverse mortgage as a way for you to still pay down your mortgage, but do so where you control the monthly payments. And we're going to get back to that part in a second. 1-800-952-PRAY, 1-800-952-7729. Anthony Miles, your Christian Reverse Mortgage Answer Man. Sit tight, don't change the dial. We'll be right back for segment 4.